What's causing gun violence is somebody in a moment of crisis. And so what can we do to prevent someone from getting in a moment of crisis? And then how do we identify that once they are? And one of those key components are threat assessments, which can be used to evaluate the likelihood that the person might engage in violence or die by suicide. And will teach people when they should be used and encourage them to ask questions. And you can go on this website and you don't have to guess anymore, and you don't have to do your own research. It will be there. Models and practices that you can bring to your school or your organization and say, do we have this? And if you don't, why not? At this point, I wanted to introduce Molly Darnell, who is a teacher in Oxford High School. She works for the Oxford Public Schools. She also was a teacher in the building that day who was shot. But I want to say the thing that I think of first when I think of Molly Darnell is friend, because I've come to know her and respect her and her strength and her resilience. And I'd love for her to come to the podium, but please remember, even this, as an educator, is hard. It's hard for her to stand up here and do this. And she's here with her daughter. And you want to come on up, Molly? And you can bring your daughter. She's just going to sit down. She's fine.
I want to start by saying it is incredibly difficult for me to get up here and share what I experienced. But I made a decision some time ago that there were moments when sharing what happened was absolutely necessary, and this is one of those moments. On November 30th of 2021, I woke up as a wife, mother, educator, friend, and colleague, and by the time I came home that evening, 3 unrecognizable labels had been given to me: evicted, victim, wounded, and survivor. I was alone in my room at school when the commotion started and the announcement was made to go into lockdown. As I was securing my door, I locked eyes with a student that I did not know. I watched as he raised a gun to me. My reaction to move to the right and the door between us, it saved my life. It allowed only one of 3 shots fired to enter and exit my upper left arm, missing my heart by 6 inches. The person that I was when I left for work that morning was taken. The life I had, the life I knew, was stolen. I am angry at the parents of the shooter. Their decision not to get their son help, but to rather purchase him a high-capacity weapon that was left accessible to him, brought devastation to an entire community that I have known for almost 30 years. I'm angry at their selfish decisions. I'm angry for what they did not do, and I'm angry for their disregard for our community. What transformed in me as a result of that day was so life-altering that I cannot even remember who I was before November 30th of 2021. But this tragedy, like many others, could have been prevented. Even before that day, I had felt the everlasting ripple effects of gun violence shift in my family home, when an act of suicide that was committed before I was born, and again during my teenage years, when my father's lifelong friend, who had survived the Vietnam War, was shot and died as a result of his injuries. I did not grow up in a household or a community where guns were readily accessible, but gun violence still found my home, and it still found me. Gun violence is not new, but it has reached a crisis point in our communities. Despite what I have seen and experienced, I still believe in the power of humanity. So much so that I asked my daughter here today so that she could see firsthand what commitment to change can be. I support the work of the Commission to address gun violence and the All of Us Foundation because they harness the power of good, of humanity for good, by learning to identify the signs that a person is in crisis, evaluating the threat they pose to themselves and to others, and connecting them with the help they need. We can prevent what I and my family and my community have experienced from happening to others. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Can everyone in this room who worked on a working group or was on the commission, can you please stand? And yes, I mean you, Tim Willis. Round of applause, please. Thank you. Part 2 of our protocols, just briefly, because everybody knows I like to summarize, addresses how can we help somebody in crisis? How can we learn from incidents of gun violence to support victims and their families? And some of the steps we can take to make our schools, workplaces, and communities safer from gun violence. And this will tell you, you don't have to read the entire book, but it's all accessible on the website, or will be, how we can act to avert a tragedy, and that there are ways to intervene. But the very first thing is just to simply acknowledge someone's suffering or their signs of crisis. We need to listen to gun violence survivors and their families and the impact of that, because that healing process is important and it also educates others. We need to engage in advocacy and allow survivors to channel that grief and trauma into real change. We need to make our communities safer by paying attention to social and physical environments, and again, our schools, workplaces, and public spaces. And most, very, very, very critical, is that we must have an independent investigation once one of these tragedies occur. And I'd like to point out that the 4 parents who are here of the children who died on that day feel very strongly about that, and I support that, and it must take place. I'd like to introduce Dalia. She's going to be talking to you about how in the real world this looks like in the application of some of these protocols to action, and I'd also like to thank her for her dedication to helping others. The importance of voices of people who are doing this work in the community. I know you're like, should I sit, should I stand? You can come on up. Was really important for me to have you all listen to and see, because these are not just recommendations and protocols for action that sit there and nobody uses. And in fact, a lot of these things we're doing in some capacity already, but we don't even have, the public isn't even informed about why these are necessary and how things like mentoring programs and groups that are helping one another are actually a key component of ending gun violence. So the protocols for action include so many concrete things for everybody to know. My favorite, which is the thing I sort of insisted on, to be honest, was a list of questions you can ask your school, your employer, or your community organization today. Like, for instance, do we have a threat assessment? If not, why not? Go on this website. Here's a model of it. It's available to you. And in that same vein, we'll be launching the training and curriculum this summer that calls on all of us to learn, look, and love as a way of preventing gun violence. We learn how we can intervene long before someone has a gun. We look for signs that someone may be in crisis. And we love and care for those who feel isolated or desperate. We'll roll out the full curriculum later this summer, and people can start by taking a short gun violence prevention awareness quiz to see what they already know about the problem, which is on the website, watching short training videos, and taking a post-training knowledge check. And I know some of you in this room are thinking, I'd really like to get more involved. You too could become a trainer. You too could be part of this curriculum and helping spread this in our community, our state, and even outside of our state. So with that, Leah.
Good afternoon. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. My name is Delia Sharp. I'm the Executive Director of Identify Your Dream. And I stand here before you, I'm filled with a profound sense of purpose and responsibility. Our mission at Identify Your Dream is deeply personal to me. At the age of 17, I lost my brother to gun violence in the city of Pontiac, just a block up the street from our home. And the trauma and grief from that loss was overwhelming. And I struggled to find a way to process my emotions. It was this personal journey through pain and healing that led me to create Identify Your Dream, a space for young people impacted by violence to find hope, healing, and a path forward. Our organization has worked tirelessly to support survivors of gun violence. I have had the honor of being a part of this task force to develop practical strategies to combat violence in our communities, in our schools, and in our homes. This task force brings together a diverse group of passionate individuals, all united by a common goal, and that is to end the cycle of violence and create safer spaces, more supportive environments for everyone. One of the most important things I want to share with you today is that preventing gun violence at a community level requires a multifaceted approach. It starts with awareness and education, as Prosecutor McDonald spoke of. We must educate our communities about the impact of gun violence and the importance of early intervention. Schools, community centers, and local organizations need to provide resources and programs that promote conflict resolution, emotional regulation, and mental health support. We were just talking about outside, Pastor McDonald was saying we need to make sure that every single member of the school board, if you are an organizer, if you work with children, you need to make sure that you have this gun violence protocol. Thank you. Because it's so important. And not only that, we talked about making sure that you are trained in mental health first aid. That is extremely important because, as Pastor McDonald, it's the coaches, it's the teachers that have they could see the first signs, even before a parent, even before a close friend. At Identify Your Dream, we have seen firsthand how trauma-informed care can make a difference. Our program offers a safe space for young people to express their emotions, share their stories, and receive the support they need. We involve youth in the planning and the decision process because the last thing we want to do is create a program that we think they need. We want to make sure that it is according to what they know they need and how they can get that better support. Supporting victims of gun violence and their families is equally crucial. It's about more than just providing immediate assistance. It's about fostering long-term healing and resilience. Our Dreamers mentoring program connects survivors with mentors who understand their experiences and can offer guidance and support through initiatives like Conversations with Survivors. We create opportunities for victims to share their stories, find solidarity, and build a supportive community. We must also address the stigma around mental health, particularly in marginalized communities. Many young people and their families hesitate to seek help due to fear of judgment or misunderstanding. By promoting culturally competent care and engaging with community leaders, we can break down those barriers and encourage more individuals to access the support they need. Our work on the Anti-Violence Task Force has highlighted the importance of collaboration. No single organization or individual can solve the problem of gun violence alone. It requires a coordinated effort from law enforcement, community leaders, educators, grassroots organizers, and survivors. Together, we can develop comprehensive strategies that address the root causes of violence and create sustainable change. I urge you all to get involved in this fight, support local organizations like Identify Your Dream, advocate for policies that promote gun safety and violence prevention, volunteer your time, donate your resources, and spread awareness about the impact of gun violence. Each of us has a role to play and building a safer, more compassionate community. In closing, I want to remind you that every action that we take, no matter how small, contributes to a larger movement towards peace and healing. We owe it to the survivors, to the victims who are no longer here with us, and to the future generations to keep pushing forward. Together, we can create a world where dreams are no longer shattered by violence, but nurtured with hope, healing, and possibility. Thank you.
So here's my call to action. For those in the room, for those at home, go to allofus.org and sign up. That's allofuscan.org. Yes, allofuscan.org. Fill out the card on your chairs. Take one out of this room to sign someone else up, please. I'm asking each of you to become an All of Us friend or an All of Us partner. An individual citizen can become a friend and learn what's needed to prevent gun violence. These are things you can actually take into your home tonight with your family, or in your church group meeting, or in your workplace. Employers, pastors, community leaders, and schools, as All of Us partners, you can lead the charge for safety by bringing the simple All of Us curriculum into your community. The individuals in these communities who take the step to learn, look, and love will also become All of Us friends ready to make our communities safe. All of us needs to work together to prevent gun violence. It's time to do more than hope and pray and argue about guns. And these are real answers and protocols for action. So please join me. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please stay for conversation at a reception at the atrium afterward. Please raise your hands or drop your card off by the door if you need any assistance. We'd really love for you all to sign up and take action as the prosecutor has requested. If you're interested in learning more about the protocol for action, please feel free to talk with Keisha or Betsy or any of the commission members. And please do visit allofuscan.org and join our social media channels. The prosecutor will be available to talk with the media here by the lectern, and then she'll join the reception afterward. Thank you so much.